All right, welcome to Sens Nation Hockey. It is Steve Warren along with the coach, Greg Kennedy, and today we're talking about the Senators' re-signing of Drake Batherson. It is a 6-year deal worth almost $30 million. The cap hit is almost $5 million, and here's your salary breakdown. It'll be $2.5 million for this season, $3.5 million next, and then a big old pay raise, $5.4 million starting in the 2023-24 season. Again, 5.4 the year after that, and then 6.5 for the final 2 years. For the time being, until Tkachuk signs, that is, that's the highest cap on the cap hit on the team for now. Thomas Chabot, among forwards, Thomas Chabot has the highest amount. So what did you think of the deal, Greg?
It's wonderful. Well, they bought up a couple years of free agency. I like the way that the salary escalates so that in the tougher times, like right now, where revenue's not that strong and they don't pay out as much money, and he's going to earn it. And I think it's a contract that will age very well. If he projects and works out to what he's supposed to be at 6.5 in the final 2 years, that should be pretty good money to be paying him by then.
He was basically a rookie last year. Not technically, not by definition. Played in the top line for the team with Tkachuk and Josh Norris. Everybody on that line had 17 goals. The leader on the team, the only team guy that had more was Connor Brown at 21. 34 points in 56 games is what he had. That was 2 points back of Tkachuk for the team lead. So if you parlay that over a full season, 82 games, Batherson was on pace for a 50-point season. Where do you have him in the prime of this new contract? What do you have him as far as point production goes moving forward?
Well, I think he's a 30 to 35 goal scorer, I would think. And if you're going to score 30 to 35 goals, I think you're going to get 65 to 70, or maybe you even get to 82 points in a year. He could conceivably become a point-a-game player. And a point-a-game player, your leading goal scorer at $6.5 million is very good money.
Pierre Dorion says he wants him to shoot more as he enters this new contract. Hasn't been a perfect run thus far. He really feels like he's got this amazing shot, Batherson does, and if he shoots more, he's going to start hitting those, that 30-goal mark, for example. Are you a fan of where he's at right now? Like, do you feel the same? Do you feel like he needs to shoot more?
Well, he's a goal scorer, right? So goal scorers need to shoot. You got to shoot the puck to score goals. I think that there was some feeling out process there as the season went along as to who does what job on the line. And I think the way the Senators played the game, that was more of a down low, below the goal line stuffs and jams and walkouts and low to high. It kind of takes away from shooters or sniper type goals. As this team progresses and the talent level rises and guys can find him on the ice in the soft spots, he becomes a sniper who becomes a shooter, a goal scorer of those types of goals. Then yeah, he will be that type of player. So yeah, let's start now. Why not start feeding him the puck and start shooting the puck more now?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think that this is one of the issues that sometimes pops up when you have a team that loves each other. Like the chemistry is so good, and every player talks about the same thing. Batherson did as well. He has a blast with the guys on this team, and the camaraderie on this team is as good as any in the NHL, I think. And then they're all young, and so it's it reminds me. I'm not comparing them to this team in any way, shape, or form, except with that young energy level they had in their early days. I'm thinking of the early '80s Oilers when they were all kids and they were all fired up and they were all kind of arriving in the NHL at the same time. It kind of reminds me of that. I'm not saying they're going to go win 5 Stanley Cups. Everybody settle down. But I wonder, when you have that level of camaraderie, do you sometimes have almost being just a lack of selfishness? And sometimes selfish is good when you're a sniper, that guys don't want to be perceived as being a puck hog. They love their teammates so much. They want to see them have success. Sometimes that, while it's almost all a silver lining when you have great camaraderie, there can sometimes be small downsides like that.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, though, the selfishness, or the level of selfishness, the level of ego. Goal scorers need to have a certain level of ego that says, I'm the guy, get me the puck. And as I said, as this team progresses and their offense sort of changes, the way they score goals, the types of goals they're going to score will change. With an upgrade on the blue line, defensemen able to find him off the rush, defensemen able to find him on the backside, different ways that they're going to be able to score goals. And yeah, he just by osmosis, he's going to become a shooter. He will shoot more because the opportunities for shots will present themselves. It's not like he was giving up scoring chances and dishing off to Tkachuk. I can't think of that having been a problem all year. But maybe there are times where he could have shot a little more often, off the rush, in stride, through screens, through traffic off the rush, those types of situations. You're a goal scorer, son, shoot the puck to score.
As mentioned, 17 goals, and you might, I don't know, maybe some people would worry a little bit about the streakiness. I mean, ideally you want a guy who's absolutely going to, contribute on a nightly basis. Consistency is key and such. But of course, he found his way into the record books with goals in 6 straight games that matched the franchise record. By the way, that was held by Alfie, Heatley, Spezza, Kudelski, and even Connor Brown later in the season last year, tied Batherson's shared record. And so in that run, he had something like 8 goals in 8 games, and that's counting in 8 games for half of his goal total for the rest of the season. Does streakiness concern you as a coach at all?
Well, I think that had more to do with age, position in the lineup, stature in the lineup. I think the quality of the team factors into that. You generate scoring chances off of puck control, right? You need to have the puck to score goals. And let's face it, that was streaky for the Senators as the year went along. The games where they had more control, the games where they were creating more offense, he was scoring goals. I don't think the games where they weren't creating offense, where he wasn't scoring, were particularly a reflection of him. It's not like, oh, he had a bad game. It's like the whole team didn't play as well or didn't generate as much that night. So I'm not concerned about it. Don't forget, as you said, basically a rookie as well. 17 goals isn't bad for basically a rookie. That tells me he can get to 25 in a regular year, like this coming season. He could easily score 25 or more this year coming up.
What do you think of the salary, the way it's worked out? And it's so cheap in the first 2 years. Again, Batherson at $2.5 million in year 1, $3.5 million in year 2. Is that a reflection of anything? Because people will look at that and go, oh, there's Eugene Melnyk with a game plan there. Do you see a game plan in that? Like, what's the thinking in being so inexpensive, relatively speaking, compared to the final couple of years?
Well, I'd like to float a conspiracy theory by you, and you tell me what you think.
I like those.
Did they possibly feel gun shy, like they got burnt on the Colin White deal? They gave him the 4.75, and now 2 years later, or even a year later, if you wanted to try to move him, it's very difficult to do at that dollar figure based on the player that he's become. So you take Drake Batherson, putting aside the fact that revenues are down, so it makes sense to pay a little less money now. But if in 2 years he's not really working out the way you thought he was going to be, it's only 3.5, and then it jumps after that year, right? So the trade deadline 2 years from now, in that year where he's making 3.5, if he's not worked out the way you wanted to work out, it's an asset that can be moved without much hardship.
I mean, I really think that at $2.5 million, it's already an absolute steal, but I expect Batherson to take a big old step forward this season, so people will almost be chuckling at how cheap that is in the first 2 years.
Yeah, like you're going to have him undervalue for a couple of years, and let's hope that he's not overvalue for the last couple of years, right? Let's hope that it ages well, and I really do think it will. He's a different player than Colin White, obviously, different type of player, different minutes, different situations on the ice. He will produce offense unlike Colin White, so it will age very well. I can't see it. But then again, these guys sign these all the time, and you think, oh, what a great contract, and then it's not. But I can't see it screwing them in the end. It's going to age very well.
I hope so, because I did feel, as you know, I've said this on many episodes, I'm just not a Colin White guy anymore. If they traded him tomorrow, I wouldn't lose an ounce of sleep over it. And but on the day of the signing, I thought, good for them. He's a first rounder. He's had that mid-40s in terms of a point production one season. I thought that was a good deal at the time, but it looks disastrous now. And who knows how things could play out. I think Batherson, I have more. I feel like I have more confidence here in the early days of this deal, but you just never know. If Batherson falls off the line, maybe Stützle moves up and plays on the top line on the off wing or something like that, and Batherson drops down, points start to disappear. Because that's what we said about Colin White, right? That's a great deal, but he did play with Tkachuk and Mark Stone for most of that fine season that he had, and got paid off of that for the most part. So you just never know, I guess, is my point. And we certainly hope it works out. And I think if you're going to invest in a guy, Batherson would seem like that sort of player. And he seems like on top of everything else, he's a fairly robust player. I think he's going to be a guy that will win more puck battles than Colin White ever could.
Oh, for sure. I don't think you can compare the two. The only comparison you can make is that the Senators stepped up and signed a youngish player to a long-term deal. That's it. Beyond that, there are no real comparisons. There's no comparisons with dollar amounts, with value, with projections, with point production, nothing. Other than they stepped up. They made a statement. They said, yep, this is a guy. We want this guy. He's here. He's going to be here. And now we've assured that he's going to be here for 6 years. And it sends a message to Brady Tkachuk. It tells Brady Tkachuk, like, yeah, we're serious. So hopefully that's the next one to drop here now.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think it also sends a message, Greg, to a skeptical fan base, because this has been a skeptical fan base, as we all know, and has been since this rebuild started. And I think it's great to get Batherson back. That in a vacuum unto itself is great news. But it's this whole thing, it's sort of affirmation for the fan base that, maybe this vow of unparalleled success, doing what they said they were going to do, and that is spend to the cap or close to it, invest in payroll basically, and spend what it takes to win. I think the Batherson signing, along with the Chabot signing, and we mentioned Colin White, I think this sends another loud message that top young players are going to be taken care of, and that the players themselves are not averse to being in Ottawa long term. So beyond Batherson, having him back and how good that is, I think it really sends a really good message across the board of the fan base too.
Couldn't agree more. Bodes very well for the future. And as I said, Tkachuk should be paying attention.
With this signing, and I guess with the Gustafsson signing as well, the Sens now have $24 million in cap room as we record this. And Tkachuk, I think, probably grabs roughly a third of that. Then next year, you've got Josh Norris, Alex Formenton, Eric Brandstrom. Year after that, it's Tim Stützle and Shane Pinto. So, I mean, the core of this team is pretty much set now, I think. You can go ahead and talk about, as Eugene Melnick did on the podcast back in May with Bob McCowan, talk about we need to bring in a center. We need to bring in a winger or a defenseman, whatever they talk. Anything you bring in right now, it's pretty much got to be on a 1-year deal, right? Because beyond that $24 million in cap room is pretty much spoken for, isn't it?
Yeah. But then again, maybe you take the view that they still need a placeholder. Do they still need a placeholder at a 2A or 1B center slot? Like, is Josh Norris really going to be the number one center for this coming season? If he is, okay, fine. Who's the number 2 center? Is it, do we have a number 2 center? So you maybe still need another placeholder. So that makes sense on a 1 or 2 year deal to get somebody in here to tide you over, as an insurance policy to make sure that Norris is developing. If Pinto ends up making the team, make sure he's developing. Who's centering your second line? You got a suggestion?
Shane Pinto is my second line center if I have to pick right now.
Okay, then who's your third line center?
Chris Tierney.
Yeah, probably, right? Because I think Nick Paul's now established as a winger. Mm-hmm. So, all right, if your top 3 centers are Josh Norris, Shane Pinto, Nick Paul, that might be nice. You want 2 years from now.
Clear up for me. Are you saying Nick Paul at center or not?
Colin White, let's say, he's your third line center. Sorry.
Yeah, but I think that's 3A or 3B. You can go Tierney or Colin White. It's probably going to be Colin White because of the contract. But in my book, I like Tierney better than White.
Yeah, but is that something you want to go into your season with? And I think that internally, that is not something that the Senator brass want to go into the season with. Just for insurance purposes, if Pinto doesn't continue to rise, if Norris doesn't continue to rise, Tierney's, you have an injury or you have a bad start. Tierney moving up into 1 or 2 is not a good answer. Do we agree?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think yes, we still need to find, or they still need to find, they should still be looking for somebody to play center ice who's an established, at worst, number 2 center.
They're tough to find, though, in a short-term basis. Yeah, I mean, teams cling to those top 2 centers, right? And you might get. You can go out and give up some of your futures to get a guy like that, but chances are he's not going to be on that convenient, inexpensive 1-year contract that you're hoping for. So it'll be a challenge for sure. But I think if all things were equal, yeah, that would be ideal. Anyway, that's it for today. Thanks for being with us here on Sens Nation Hockey. Please hit the subscribe button below to let us know you're out there watching. You can leave us some feedback below as well. And, of course, we'll talk about this and much more on our podcast at sensnationhockey.com. We'll talk to you again soon.